Support. Curtis Fleming is there on the edge of the area. Fleming for Craig Hignett. Hit it, Higgy. Higgy hits the treble!
Avenelli coming alive again. Janino wants the ball played to him. Avenelli spots out Emerson!
Hello and welcome to another rerun of the Boro Breakdown podcast. This is an episode from last February, probably. But Middlesbrough are ninth in the championship table. They're on 14 points. And, at one point, they could have been in fourth and 2 points off the top. But a defeat against Watford on Saturday, seeing Boro drop down to ninth. And now we're in an international break. And who knows, you might see if this is actually a rerun or not. Guys, as always, one key takeout. Dana, how are you feeling? What was your one key takeout from the week?
It's really hard to land on one because we've had two very contrasting games and two contrasting emotions coming from them. I think my key takeout would be that Boro really need to stop shooting themselves in the foot in any way, shape or form, be it by conceding stupid goals, which I guess you could say was also applicable for the Watford game because, as you will touch upon, avoidable. And then also by not converting chances and not putting the game away when we really should, because, Watford was a big example of how you can essentially open up the opportunity for the opposition to get back into the game because you've not shut it down and basically taken the game away from them. You've kept it within their grasp. So, if Boro don't find themselves in the position that they want to be in come the end of the season, then I feel like the likelihood is that it'll only be themselves that they've got to blame. So, yes, we need to rectify the key issues, which is obvious. And we need to rectify them pretty soon because it's very frustrating that we're kind of going through the same stuff over and over again.
Hell yeah. And Tom, how are you feeling about this week?
You know what? It's very similar to what Dan has just said, and echo that completely. Looking at the games we've played so far this season, there's definitely a case that we should have won every one. And if we haven't, and we've lost or we've drawn, it has been down to our own mistakes. And the frustration is there. And I mean, it's a bit early in the season to worry about this too much, but there's no team in this league who is stand out better than the rest of them. It looks like it's very open. Anyone can beat anyone. And it's a chance to, if we step up and play the way that we know that Boro can, then, the league is there for the take. And quite a few teams could be saying that as well. But there's no one standout team. It's nothing like last year. It's very open. And you just look at yesterday, there was a lot of points of, dropped from the teams above us. You'd think, right, we can go on and capitalise that, close the gap, come back stronger after the international break. And we just drop a typical Boro performance, which is changing now. The very definition of a typical Boro is changing to, should have won, but we haven't, and we've thrown it away, and we do that, and then we've got to wait a couple of weeks to try and right it again. As Dan has just said there, if we are outside of where we want to be by the end of the season, we're probably going to be looking at the start of this season and thinking, well, we've thrown it away, and it's us that's done that. Because, like I said, there's strong cases that we should have won or drawn pretty much every game, and we should have done better than what we are now. And, we'll get into this as the show goes on. But as of 10 minutes into the game yesterday, I was really optimistic. And it's just, it goes downhill as the game goes on. And we need to correct those mistakes.
Yeah, and I think to add on to you guys, my one key takeout is the Boro butterfly effect. Missing one big chance or a moment, and then the larger effect happening of not killing a game off in the team, coming into it and scoring and stealing. Not really stealing, but they end up, if you win a game, you deserve to win a game. I think when you finish your chances, and it's becoming like a theme, I would say. When you look at Middlesbrough's the line numbers in terms of XG, and you're looking at like the chances we create, the touches we have in the opposition's box, we do enough, but we're not putting the chance away. I think when you look at the Watford game, we could have been 3-0 up by the time Edmondson scored, and game was done, finished. You go to 42 points off top, and you're thinking, wow, what a great turnaround it's been, and we're in a fantastic position. And Boro are still in a good position, but they should be in a lot better than what they currently are. And what you don't want, part of this butterfly effect, is one thing each game totaling up over the season, and then you are in that position of, like Dan mentioned, and like you mentioned there, Tom, you've missed out because you've not been able to capitalize in those moments, and they are starting to add up now. Boro's numbers are starting to look a bit stark in front of goal. They're doing all the right things, they're getting there, but they're just not finishing it off, and that is a problem. And that's the difference between a mid-table side, a side that gets in the playoffs, and a side that gets in the automatic places as well. But there is a win to talk about here, and like Tom, you mentioned it earlier around this league is wide open and everyone's beating everyone. And we went to West Brom, we won 1-0, courtesy of the Hayden Hackney goal, and everyone was delighted on that night. And we thought, hey, we're going to do something really good here. And Dana, how would you assess that performance? Because for me, I thought we played excellent.
Yeah, I agree. I thought we were really good against West Brom, and that performance made me so happy because it was everything that Boro could be. And I thought Michael Carrick got it absolutely spot on, and the players did as well. And I think that needs to be mentioned because it was pretty much the flip opposite in terms of the players anyway against Watford. But our performance in this game was so strong. West Brom are a side that really like to press upon an opponent. And I think the key player against that press, who was to a degree, I would say, press resistant in this match, was the goal scorer, Hayden Hackney. I think he was pivotal. He was the centerpiece of basically how Boro were able to play through and transition beyond that press. His body position at all times was angled in a way where he could receive the ball from the back, lay it off, and then continue a run to connect that play again. And that's why I think he was so strong in his performance, and why I do think that he was, if we're going to land on a definition or an adjective, press resistant. I think he was very good in that game. And Boro's play in general, in possession, was so strong. Like some really good moves between the lines, transitioning it quickly. The tempo was really good. And I was thinking at half time, this has been a really good, really enjoyable performance from Boro for that very reason. We probably should have been, we should have been 1-0 up because Riley McGree had a big chance that he should have converted. He definitely should have got it on target at the very least. And then Emanuel Latte Lath forced a good save from Alex Palmer from a header. And I was thinking, okay, we haven't scored, but we're playing well. And I feel like we could build upon this. And then when we went 1-0 up, we absolutely deserved it. I did look at some of the West Brom fan opinion after the match because I do like to see what other fans think of Boro. There were some really good comments from the Baggies fans. One of them said, got to give it to Boro tonight. They came with a game plan and executed it perfectly, completely shut us out all game, nicked the goal and saw the game out. Credit where credit is due. Carrick and their squad got it bang on tonight. Can't complain losing to that. Another one said, fair play Boro, one of the best sides I've seen this season. Very fluid. Good passing. He said disappointing from an Albion perspective. Another one said Boro fully deserved the win tonight. If it wasn't for Palmer, it could have been a lot worse. And then finally, Boro defended better than us, says another one. Played through the lines better than us, attacked better than us. No arguments from me. They deserved the win. Thought we looked laboured and devoid of ideas at times, but credit must go to a well-organised Boro side. And I do want to touch upon that well-organised Boro side part because defensively, we were spot on, really good in that game, particularly when Mikey Johnson and Tom Fellows came on. They changed the wingers, West Brom. They're two very dangerous wingers, one-on-one in particular, and putting balls into the box. Edmondson was very good in his defensive performance. So, yeah, very structured, very, very good in terms of the concentration of the team. That was one of the most impressive performances, I think, under Michael Carrick. Very, very good. Managed the game well, played well in possession, were enjoyable to watch. Should have probably scored more, but hey ho, you can't have everything with Boro. And it was a statement victory. And I'm so annoyed, so sad that we couldn't add to that against Watford. But yeah, very good midweek against West Brom. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and look, defensively, Boro have came on leaps and bounds, I'd say, of like the last 6 to 7 months. If we won yesterday, and at one point when we were 1-0 up, Middlesbrough were joint second for clean sheets in the league with 5. We're 10 goals better off than we were last season. So you can really see Boro's shape, and we're getting better in those moments. Yeah, of course, there's external factors around teams and who we're playing against. But in terms of shape and getting better in this unit, we've actually improved a lot. Like, we really have improved a lot from where we were. But Tom, what's your thoughts on the win? I'm assuming you were very impressed with Boro's display. Obviously, Dan was mentioned there about Boro defensively and being a lot more fluid. But is there anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, it was an impressive win. It was quite a fun game to watch as well. I do enjoy a game like that where both teams are kind of hard to break down. It's 0-0 for a long time, and then there's like a 1-0 win. I do think there is an element of entertainment to that, even if it's not an absolute goal fest. It's two kind of well drilled teams trying to break each other down, and obviously Boro were just better at that on the night. Very happy to see us more defensively organised than we were, talking about the start of last season. But yeah, as Dana mentioned, that should have been a statement win. That took us to 2 wins in a row, and disappointed we couldn't make it 3, because that sort of consistency is what we're going to need to get to where we want to be in the table. And following up a win like that against West Brom should have been, top of the priority list for the Boro players yesterday. And it's really disappointing that we couldn't do it.
You alluded to it earlier, but do you think that the win against West Brom, the win against Leeds, I think they're the 2 standout performances that we've seen? I appreciate one's in the Carling Cup. I'm going to call it Carling because I'm not calling it Carol on this podcast. Do you think that those 2 wins really do show that Boro can 100% compete at the top end of the table this year?
I'm going to say yes, but for a couple of reasons. We've got the squad to do it, and they are well coached, and we can do it. But also, as I mentioned earlier, there's no real standout team in this league. Both of those teams could probably come to the Riverside and get a win. It seems like it's going to be that type of league this season. We obviously still have to play Leeds in the league. That'll be a completely different proposition. But you saw what they can do in the game on Friday night. Desperately unlucky not to come away with 3 points against Sunderland. But that's a Sunderland team who are unfortunately top of the league at the moment, and Leeds had them beat. And it was a Leeds mistake that's kind of like led to the draw there. But it does just show how equally matched a lot of the teams around the top are, and those results can happen either way, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. And when I want to add to like that as well around the teams like Leeds and like West Brom, both sides, and what surprised me, I think, against West Brom is that they didn't really sit in like a lower block. They wanted to, give Boro a good goal. And we've been able to pick them off. We broke away. We brought the press really well. We made some really good chances. Got the ball in the box. Yes, it was a bit of too much to do in terms of touches. I think when you look at Middlesbrough already this season, we're either too rash or we take too long to get the shot away. And there's no in between of that. We have to find that balance now and try and kill games off when we're in those good moments. Because like we said against West Brom, like we have against Watford, and what we did against Leeds, where we were clinical, we got in the right moment, had the right touch, and scored the right goal. No, you can't always do that every week, but what you can do is just make sure that you don't panic as much. I think when we talk about rash, there's like an eagerness to get the shot away at times, or when we're in the box, I think Boro's numbers of touches in the opponent's box, I think it's like 50 or 60 more than any other team in the division. So it shows like we're either doing too much in those moments, which I think we are, or teams are in too much of a shape. What we're trying to think about Arsenal is they always try and walk it in, and we're going to try and walk it in as well. And we've got to find that dynamic now. We've got to start killing games off, and unfortunately, that is a big problem for us. But there is a player I want to just quickly touch on before we go into Watford, and it's Hayden Hackney, and Denny alluded to him at the start of the show. Definitely adding goals to his game now. In terms of influence, how important do you think he is now? Because Ryan McGree gets a lot of praise, but I think Hayden Hackney, probably excluding that Sunderland game, how important do you think he is to this Boro side?
Oh, massively important. And he definitely listened to you saying that he was crap against Sunderland and took that personally, Johnny, because he was really good in the West Brom game. Yeah, in the Stoke game and the West Brom game, actually. He's very good in midfield, Hayden Hackney. He's made the most progressive passes in the Championship this season. If we take it as a total figure, 100 progressive passes. If we look at it per 90, that's 11.2 per game, which again is the top rank in the Championship. So I appreciate a forward-thinking midfielder. I really, really do. I've mentioned it before on podcasts. I don't like midfielders a lot of the time that do just recycle the ball. Like that's fine, and I think it is important. But if you have that and that only in midfield, then yeah, I don't feel like it's very helpful, but with Hayden Hackney, he's a very forward-thinking midfielder who has, added goals to his game recently, which is something that I think he can offer. He's a player that really likes to drive with the ball, and I think because he does that, he can get himself into goal-scoring opportunities or goal-scoring spaces, or spaces to just get a shot off. And so I think it's good that two different goals, the Stoke and the West Brom one, very guided, placed perfectly into the bottom corner. He's maybe gone under the radar a little bit because Aidan Morris is his central midfield partner. And I think with a new player, there's a lot of intrigue, a lot of interest, and maybe the hype just amps up a little bit more. But that's not to say that Hayden Hackney has deservedly fallen underneath his shadow, because I think he's been really good, Hackney, gradually getting better. I think previously at the very beginning of the season, he did he wasn't really standing out, but I think recently he's definitely done so. It's a shame that against Watford, he couldn't continue such a high level of performance. Thought he was all right, but nothing Stoke and West Brom level. But I think those two games that I just mentioned there are a reminder that Hayden Hackney is a very good talent, and I think he's destined for really good things. I really rate Hackney. I do. I think, as Tom mentioned, he's bulked up a little bit as well. So in terms of that defensive side of the game, maybe just winning those offensive duels and trying to shield the ball, protect it. I think that's added another weapon in his armory. So yeah, I think he's a fantastic player, Hackney. I really do.
Yeah, I think we're probably going to struggle to keep him if we don't go up this season. I know it feels like we've been saying that for the last couple of years as well. There's always been those rumours that Spurs are looking, or the Manchester clubs were linked at one point. Liverpool, I think. We're on to the third season of watching his development, and it's such a cliche to say, but he looks better all the time, and he's adding bits to his game. He's bulked up. He's adding the goals to it. He's really developing well in that midfield partnership now with Aidan Morris, who is drifting around and winning those balls back, which is then allowing the other midfielder to be a bit more creative. Whether that is Hackney, we've seen it when he's partnered with Barlasser as well. So I think it is giving Hackney a bit more freedom to perform this season, but. Yeah, he looks so good and getting better all the time. And like I say, if we don't go up this season, other than the fact that it's going to be our own fault, losing Hayden Hackney would be our own fault in that scenario as well, because I don't see him staying past this season if we don't.
I agree. I've got a question off the back of this discussion about Hayden Hackney, and obviously we've touched upon Aidan Morris as well. Do you guys think that we miss Johnny Howson in any way, shape or form? Because I see Johnny Howson get mentioned quite a lot, mostly in regards to the leadership debate, which I hate that conversation, I must admit. But like, I don't think that we do. So I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts.
I don't think we miss him. I think there's definitely a lot of qualities you can have on the pitch with someone like Howson playing. You know, you see it with Aylan as well. I think Aylan has a good bit of leadership about him, and the experience. You can't buy experience. I think in terms in some aspects, because experience can come in different forms, because it can come from being like a really young player and showing that advancement. It could be someone who's a talker. It could be someone who does it on the pitch or in the dressing room, or there's always that quiet leader as well, which doesn't always get the acknowledgement. I think what you see as a fan sometimes, if you see someone barking orders on the pitch, that is classified as a leader, when really I don't think it is. There's a lot of different developments of that, and you might have leaders on the pitch which might not be seen as in like extrinsic than you think it is. But for me, Howson hasn't been mentioned unless we get beat. You know, when we're winning football matches, Aidan Morris is the best player since sliced bread. Hayden Hackney's set for England and for the highest of heights. So where does Johnny Howson fit into that? He probably doesn't, right? Unless we play a 3 in midfield. And Howson is great to have around, but we have to get past Johnny Howson now. We have to get past it. He's been a fantastic servant. And remember, when he first joined, he was public enemy number 1. Everyone thought he was useless and crap, and everyone wanted him sold within a year. So it's how funny football can change. But he's been an excellent servant, still a valuable member of the squad. Definitely want him around the place. Definitely want him in the change room, and you know, creating confidence for different and young players. But on the pitch, I'm not missing him. I don't miss him at all. I think if you're in those moments, like say against Watford, and the game's running away from you a little bit, maybe a bit of experience to bring on is a good thing, because you're able to tie things together. But if you're an experienced player and not at the level in comparison to the players around you, you're actually creating more of a deficiency rather than an efficiency side of things. So, yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are, Tom, but I don't think we're missing him, to be honest. I think if in the change rooms and around the place, if we're missing him that much, why isn't he on the team bus? Why isn't he in and around the team?
I agree with you, Johnny. And fun story about what you've just said there about him being public enemy number 1 when he came in. When we signed him, I was in a different job. I was working with friend of the podcast, Teesside Norwich fan Matty Sokol, and I said about a lot of the fans not taking to him, and we both kind of agreed at that moment that it was because the season before he'd scored some absolute worldie for Norwich from about 30 yards out or something. And then the amount of times he was getting the ball in that position and people were saying shoot, and he just wasn't doing it. I was like, I swear people just thought this is what we were getting from him, just 30-yard worldies, like a centre mid-time or kink or something. But yeah, that was quite funny at the time. But no, I don't think we're missing him at all. And I said, just on a slightly different note, I said in our group chat yesterday, looking at the bench, it's like that is a strong bench. There's a lot of options on it. 8 out of the 9 players on there were senior players, and you look at the one who wasn't, George McCormick, right? If hypothetically you have every player fit, and you know potentially there might be a couple of the other senior players who might get swapped out on the bench as well. But let's say for argument's sake, you've got one space on the bench. You've got Tommy Conway to come back in. You've got Darrell Lenihan, Dale Fry, Lucas Engel, Johnny Howson. Who gets back in from that? I don't think it's guaranteed to be Johnny Howson. I think it's more than likely going to be Tommy Conway. So the amount of options, Dawn, we have on our bench now to choose from, there's always going to be people missing out. And like I said, because Hayden and Aidan are playing that well in centre mid, and we also know that Aidan Morris can help bring I wouldn't say the best, but we haven't really seen it, but can help Dan Barlaser when he's also in centre mid. I don't think it's guaranteed that Howson comes onto the bench for Barlaser or in that remaining space, which is currently taken up by someone who I don't want to sound like I'm slating McCormick or anything, but arguably an under 23s player is making up that last space. But then you've got 5 other options, and I might be missing someone as well. There is a lot to choose from, and there's always going to be disappointment of some people who miss out from the bench.
Well, let's move on then and chat about Watford then, because Boro were 1-0 up against Watford and then threw it all away. Tom, let's chat about this defeat against Watford, because do you think it's the win against West Brom means nothing now that we've messed it up against Watford?
In a sense, because I think people could be looking at this week before it happened and thinking, we could be likely to come away with 3 points here, but they probably would have had it the other way around, lose against West Brom and beat Watford. I wouldn't necessarily say the win against West Brom means nothing, because we still can take stuff away from that. We can take, in terms of defensive structure, we know we did a good job there. In terms of the rest of the game plan, we did a good job. But then to go into Watford, and like I said earlier, that first 10 minutes against Watford, I just thought we were so sharp with our passing, so crisp. It popped up on the screen at one point saying we had 90% possession versus 10. And I was like, this is only going to go one way. And it looks like it's only going to be a matter of how much. For me, that it just looked like this was going to be the match where Boro properly clicked. And, people mention it on Twitter all the time. We're going to give a team a battering at some point. I was like, oh, God, this could be it. And it slowly dies down from there. And towards the end of the first half, not that Watford were particularly threatening, but I was kind of like, if we can get into half-time at 0-0, I'm kind of happy with that, because I know Carrick is probably better at changing things at half-time than he is at any other point in the game, and we can come out second half and do better. We obviously get the goal and then go on to concede 2 and lose it. And it's a sickener when that happens, because, and apologies to any stray Watford fans who were watching this, I didn't think they deserved it at all on the balance of play. We should have been far away by that point. And as you said earlier, Johnny, it could have been about 3-0 by half-time, or by the point that Edmondson scored. So, yeah, it's a real frustrating one. And in terms of the feeling of the win against West Brom, it definitely diminishes that. But I don't think it takes too much away from that in terms of the learnings from the game and what Michael Carrick and the coaching staff can take onto the training pitch and take forward throughout the season.
So, damn it, how did we lose it?
Oh my God, honestly, I don't know. And you know what you said about Tom, about the Watford fans, any stray Watford fans watching, I think they would kind of agree with the sentiment of like, how did they win that game? Because I did look on their hashtag after, like immediately after the match, and they were thinking, how on earth we managed to come away from that game with 3 points? I think basically you're looking at a couple of tales from that match. One of them was that Boro did not put the game to bed. Because I think if you go 2-0 up, that's pretty much the game done there. I don't think Watford come back from that. So it was closing off that avenue for them to get back into it by converting that second goal that Boro didn't. And then oddly, at around, I'm going to look at the FOTMob momentum visualizer here, because at around 70 minutes, the game just seemed to swing into Watford's favour. And it was almost as if Boro just got complacent in a way. Like, our game management against West Brom was so good, and yet it was so bad against Watford. And I hope Carrick knows why. I think he alluded to it, but didn't go in depth on what it was after the match to BBC Tees on what they were doing wrong. But the momentum completely shifted in their favour. And in fairness, I will say that despite Boro having the majority of possession, they had 68% possession in that first half and nothing to show for it at half time. Watford still held a decent threat on the counter-attack. And actually, I think there was maybe a point where we were pretty fortunate that we didn't concede in that first half. I think it might have been who was it that had the opportunity? Was it Jebison? Oh, no, it was Ince. It was Tom Ince that had an opportunity where Hayden Hackney kind of deflected it very awkwardly back to him. And I was thinking, well, that's a goal. So there was threats on the counter from them because I think they had the pace. And another moment in the game was that equaliser. And I'm going to let you go into it, Johnny, because I think that massively swung it. It just took it out of Boro's grasp, and then from there we just plateaued.
Yeah, I don't want to go into the goal just yet, but it was like part of that momentum shift was the subs of Hamilton and Ben Doak for McGree and Jones. Do you think that's a bit of a catalyst, Tom, as to why Watford got back into the game?
I mean, it could be. There's definitely a correlation there with the time of substitutions and that swing in momentum. Weirdly, just before Doak got taken off, I was saying to my uncle at the time, I'd probably take Doak off for Jones here because I did think both Hamilton and Doak were starting to look tired around that time. But I did think Doak had a bit of a tough afternoon because the defender, I can't remember which...
Sema.
Sema, I thought, defended really well against Ben Doak. I thought Doak, and I'm starting to notice this more and more with him, he doesn't want to go outside the defender and onto his right foot. He wants to cut in on his left. And Sema was doing the defending that we should have done against Patrick Roberts the other week. He was blocking off that cut inside for Ben Doak. So I was kind of like, if we can bring Jones on here and have him running around Sema, and I mean, we don't probably hype up Jones's crossing ability on his right foot too much, but if we can get it round, get him on his right foot, he would be able to at least get some low crosses in, and we can maybe get a bit of a threat from there. Hamilton at the same time, like I said, I did think both were starting to look tired, and I'm like, if we make any change there, it's got to be McGree, and then we maybe look to utilise Neto Borges a bit on the left-hand side. But it does seem that it does correlate with those substitutions and that swing in momentum. There's definitely logic behind doing it, but I couldn't pinpoint exactly what has gone wrong there to swing that momentum.
Yeah, I think on that as well, Tom. I think the sub for Jones for Doak, I think that in itself could help Sema a little bit as well, because he's not got someone who's constantly running at him. He's got someone who's more of a give and go type player and getting around, someone who's a bit more defensively sound as well. So Boro trying to probably become a bit more defensively stronger in probably like the last 30 minutes. And when Jones and McGree came on, it felt like Boro had dropped about 5 or 10 yards and started to sit back a little bit. And I don't really know why we did, because we were in control of the game in that moment, and things, were on our side for the most part. And when their subs came on, there's a slight tweak in shape. There's 2v1s in different areas. Boro haven't adapted to it. So it kind of leads me to that question, really. Is this result on the players or the manager, really? Because we were in a fantastic position and we just threw it all away.
Well, I did a poll on Twitter, just kind of gauging the opinion, because I saw a lot of I was consuming a lot of kind of post-match opinion about the game and who's to blame for it, because there was a lot said, and I mentioned it myself, to be fair, on the radio about Michael Carrick's substitution. But I will say that with Carrick, all I've really heard, or I've heard a lot on the radio about Carrick, is that he's inactive, that he's passive, he doesn't make his substitutions. He made substitutions at the right point yesterday, so I'm not going to criticize him for that. I think it was just unfortunate that they did not have the desired effect. So it was more a lack of, it was just unfortunate rather than anything detrimental that Carrick did. It was more on the players for me. And on that poll, 538 votes, 30% of people say that Carrick was more at fault for that defeat yesterday, and then 64% are saying that the blame is on the players. I'm surprised that it's 36% on Carrick, because I don't think that was his fault at all yesterday. He cannot legislate for Boro missing chances. He cannot legislate for Boro dropping and becoming complacent. Some people might say, well, that's kind of his man management there, basically. But I'm pretty sure Carrick had a game plan. He absolutely did have a game plan, because we could see it. We were good for the most part. And I also will credit the players for that. But they just relinquished that control and they allowed Watford back into the game. So for me, that's on the players. The players, they missed their chances. Azaz's in particular, I will give for Latte Lath's header Ogbonna credit, because I think he does put him off. I said to my dad at the time, I think it's the way that he should have headed that ball, Latte Lath, that he just couldn't get that connection on it because Ogbonna was coming in. You're risking a very serious head injury there, I think, if Latte Lath goes for it the way that I think everybody wanted to in order to get it on goal. But I think that's more on the players than on Carrick yesterday. I'm not going to say that Carrick is absolutely that he should avoid any criticism, but he did all the right things. You know, he put the players on at the right point. If he didn't put the players on, then people would have mourned that he wasn't doing anything to change the game. So it's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. At the end of the day, if Azaz converts that chance, if Latte Lath converts that chance, if we just convert that second goal, we are not sat here talking about a defeat. So for me, it's on the players.
Tom, don't know if what you think is anything to add to that. Do you think it's manager or players?
I would have to agree with Dana, and I think it's on the players. I did think, as I mentioned earlier, I was in agreement with the changes when they were made. For me, that was Carrick making the changes at the right time. We were still in a winning position at that point. And, you know, at that point, the momentum did swing, but it does line up with, as you've just mentioned there, Johnny, us sitting a bit deeper. And why we've decided to do that, I'm not too sure. But yeah, it was hugely frustrating to watch in that last 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, 100%. And look, it kind of comes back to the question I asked a couple of weeks ago. Like, Carrick needs to ask more questions and find answers. But again, you've got players there that are reliable on the pitch. I think there's only so much he can do in those moments. It can come back to that experience side of things. There's so many if, buts, and maybes, but we are becoming an if, buts, and maybes type of team if this butterfly effect keeps happening and we're missing chances and things are getting to happen to us. But I just want to quickly touch on that equaliser as well, because it could easily have been avoided. You know, if you think prior to the goal actually happening, Boro on the attack, Jones plays the ball down, Latte Lath gets in and he just misses it, and the keeper makes a good save. It comes out to the defender, and then Watford break the press and they find themselves on the break. And Andrews gets the ball on the right-hand side. They've switched the play really well. And what you want from Emanuel Borges is just to try and guide him down the line. I think you've always been told, everyone gets told when you're playing football, if you're a fullback, don't show them inside, because when you show them inside, you create a big opportunity for someone to have. And I think at the start of it, Borges is actually fine. He's showing him down the line, but Andrews can see the play really open up from the pitch is getting there, and you can see the goal on his side. And then as he starts to come inwards, you see Hackney and McGree in this little pocket of space just open for Andrews. Now, with Borges here, I think he could potentially just move inwards just a little bit more, just to show him down that further line, and then he has to hit it across goal. So you're going to buy yourself maybe a couple of seconds, and if that, really. And there's nothing too bad for this, but what we would want to see is the likes of Hayden Hackney or the likes of Ryan McGree just to occupy the space, which has just been opened up by Andrews, where the way he's being able to take the ball, you can see he's wanting to bring it onto his left foot and then just trying to create an opportunity either to have a shot on goal or, as the play progresses, to find Kayambe in the centre of the pitch. We tend to see it that, you know, Borges switches his body shape. He's trying to block the shot. Hackney comes in as well. McGree comes in as also. They all trying to surround Andrews, but what that does is creates the space for Kayambe to, on the edge of Boro's box, in the middle of the goal, to get his shot away. And what's really quite funny in this goal is that you have two players pointing at Kayambe, when really, if we had one player go towards Kayambe and not run towards the ball, it would have probably nullified the actual shot even taking place. And then it's just as part of that as well, you see Edmondson try and block the shot. You see Seny Dieng flat-footed at one point as well. You see him like try and get into his stance. And by doing that, he gets a bit more weight on his right foot. And then by doing so, you actually put yourself in a bit of a disadvantage for a goalkeeper. And then you are like trying to scramble for the goal. And it actually just go, and it's actually admittedly a poor shot from Canby, but it does get into the corner of the net because of the poor positioning from Dieng in the end. So it's a goal for me, which I think could have been avoided quite comfortably, because if we're able to not ball watch and trying to get in and understand where the player is, because we've all went towards the ball and try to surround it, but there's enough bodies there. There's Edmondson there, there's Borges, there's Hackney, there's McGree. You've got your back four there. The line, defensive line, fine. The next iteration of play, fine, trying to guide the line. It's absolutely fine. It's that final moment where he shifts onto his left foot. You can't ball watch that. You've got to understand where you are on the football pitch and see how he just goes to the way. He's just got on that blind side of the midfielders of Hackney and of Ryan McGree. And if you're all pointing towards him, it's kind of like that fire analogy, isn't it? Where like someone's pointing towards fire and no one's pointing out. So we've got ourselves to blame. I think that's poor defending, but that gives you momentum. We talk about game state so much on this podcast and in football in general. Game state matters. That shifted the game state. That gave them the belief. That gave them the opportunity to score the winner as well. But for me, I'm really disappointed with that goal, to be honest. I think we should be so much better than what we've just done there, because I've said at the start of the show, defensively, we have got a lot better as a unit, but those individual errors will always happen. And we think about something that happens 3 or 4 moments before a goal happens. It's Kayambe's movement, really, which he just keeps pulling away from the midfielders, and that's how he gets into that space and scores. But I don't know if you've got anything to add to that.
Yeah, I think it happens because we overcommit. We overcommit on Watford's left-hand side, because I've got a screenshot on. I've just paused it right where I think it. I don't know who has the ball, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Boro players in that small quadrant, and essentially you see Ryan Andrews has so much space, and it's because Boro have overcommitted. So you don't have the screenshot on the screen.
No.
It is just before that. But it basically shifts Boro from Boro are kind of playing in Watford's left-hand side on our right-hand side, and it just opens up that space on the opposing flank that essentially creates that move. So yeah, we overcommit in that sense, and then we overcommit on the box when Andrews has the ball, because there's 3 players that go towards it, including Neto Borges, who's obviously already trying to deal with Andrews, but then McGree and Hackney come over, and it's, yeah, you see it in the move. Space opens up because Boro overcommit, and we don't need to overcommit, as you said, so it's just a very avoidable goal.
Yeah, and I want us to be a bit more positive, because I feel like I just rant for ages if we say how Borough give away games and it's not defending. I'm just sick of it, and this could actually, it's not a rerun now. I feel like everyone's kind of noticed that it's not a rerun, but we're still talking about the same themes, and it's really frustrating. But I want to try out Michael Hamilton, Tom, because it was his first proper start in the league yesterday. How do you think he fared, and what would you like to see more of him?
Thought he did all right. I also went on Twitter after the game and looked at some Watford fan opinions, and a lot of them were saying he was one of our best players. And then, when he went off, that kind of changed things for us. I thought he did quite well. I think before the game, when we were discussing it in our group chat, we were all a bit surprised that McGree was dropped to the bench and Hamilton came in. But he does offer something different on that left-hand side. I suppose something I'd like to see a little bit more is essentially just what Ben Doak's been doing on the right-hand side. I'd like to see him be a bit more confident and look to take people on, because I feel like the ability is definitely there. He had a few decent dribbly spells yesterday, and it does look like he's maybe getting a little bit more comfortable, but I wouldn't say he had the confidence of Ben Doak, who's come in and is immediately comfortable, which we obviously should have expected given what was reported from the Scotland camp after the Euros, where he was like, "Oh, if I was fit, we wouldn't have even been knocked out." There's that level of confidence, and then there's the kind of more slow build level of confidence, which I think is what we've seen from Hamilton so far. But there's more to come, I'm sure. And yeah, just want to see a bit more of a dribbly option on that left-hand side as we have on the right-hand side.
I'm just going to say, Dan, I was going to give you some space there, see if you got add anything.
Yeah, sorry, I'm like, I'll be really honest, I don't see it from him. I don't see anything from him. I made a mistake on the radio by kind of saying he was dangerous. I was more talking about Dork. I think he's a right winger playing on the left. That's what I see from him. I was having a look on Transfermarkt. He's right-footed. I'm not surprised. That boy uses his right foot so often, and we're playing him out on the left. And obviously, I know why, because it's the way the Boro play. And to be fair, I think he played left winger at Man City, didn't he? Although he kind of shifted between the two, but I just don't see it from him. This is not me writing him off, but right now I just don't see the threat from him. I think he linked up pretty decently. He got into some good areas, I guess, but it's just not the same as McGree, is it? And yeah, I just feel like he's always on the left hand side. He always comes inside. He always plays that safe ball. It's like watching Kieran Trippier at the Euros, and that's too recent that I didn't like that, and it's too recent. So it's like I don't see it from him. I don't. I know you've said, Johnny, before that like you think he's a good player. I think that he's got potential, but I just don't see it from him right now, unfortunately. Going against the grain there, but I've got to be honest.
No, that's what I want, Dan. I want you to be honest. And what I see in him is when I've watched him and I'm trying to like just understand like how he's playing, and I definitely think how he's played. He's definitely playing safe in those initial appearances. I think rightly so. When he's on the ball, he looks comfortable, which he should be. He's good in tight areas, and he makes the right pass most times out of 10. So that is good in terms of retention and keeping the ball and trying to progress up the pitch. That is a good thing. You want to retain it. And where he's came from in terms of Manchester City ball retention, getting to a specific area, coming back, playing it towards midfield, and looking for that next iteration or that next phase of attack. You can see it's fully engraved in how he's wanting to play football. He's subject to that environment. So for me, when I've watched him, he'll get into a good area, he'll drive the ball forward, and then that next iteration is right. Okay, let's shift onto the right foot. Who's around me? Where's that next thing? What I'm thinking, what you're after, Dana, is someone who's similar to Dork, and I'm not putting words in my mouth here, but it's just a more sort of like you want someone to keep that full back and really trying to drive on. I thought he was bright yesterday. I actually thought he had a good game, but there's a few things that play. I think he needs more game time. Can we guarantee it?
Yeah.
I think the second part of it's a confidence thing. First real taste of men's football in terms of like a senior level. And I think 3 is just more sort of adjusting to Boro's way. I think when you've seen it with Morgan Rogers, it took him about 5 or 6 games or 10 games really, and then he started to gel and click. And he was playing all the time. And obviously he's went on to do amazing things already. But I think with Mike Hamilton, he's got very good attributes. He looks comfortable, and I think he has talent. I think it's just he just needs the time. I think he's time with just get in good areas, really learn the system, get a little bit of pep out of him, and just show. And I said in our group chat, I would just like him to be a bit more adventurous, and that is something that you can just do with time. He's on a 4-year deal. He's about 12-year-old. Like he's got plenty of time to develop right now, and we just need to give him the time basically, because I think there's some really good attributes there.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree. Like, and again, I'll reiterate, I'm not writing him off. I'm just responding to kind of his performance against Watford and what I've seen so far. I'd like to see him be more creative. I don't expect another Dork because we don't play like that on the left-hand side. But when he does cut inside, I just want to see a little bit of incision. Potentially, you can see that cut inside on his right and maybe loft that ball to the far post kind of thing. But I want to see more creativity from him, because I do think that there's a good player in kind of 1v1 dribbling situations. So potentially you could see him try to get into the box that way. But yeah, it is very safe. It is very ball retention. But on that side, on any side really, from a winger, I just want to see creativity rather than ball retention. Like for a midfielder, that's what I expect. That's who I expect to be the kind of ball retention type of players, midfielders. But wingers, I want more than that. So I do think we'll see more than that. But yeah, performance against Watford, he was all right.
Just want to add something on at the end of that as well. This is another example this season of Boro signing someone who plays as a left winger who's right-footed, and this has been a bit of a trend for quite a few years now, because we've had Micah Hamilton, Sammy Silvera, Sammy Amiobi. We were on about signing
Wow.
that Mitchell Van Bergen. He was left winger, right-footed. I don't know, like it's weird because we obviously don't play that way with having Riley McGree in that left attack and mid position, and we look for the overlap with the left back. But there definitely seems to be an ongoing effort to bring in some sort of inverted winger or inside forward on that left hand side, because it is something that we've recruited for quite a few times at this point, and it's not the way we play. So it's interesting why we keep doing it, but I'm trying to see what we're supposed to be wanting from that position now, because I think in terms of what we're used to, in terms of what worked a couple of years ago, and what the fans want to see, they want to see Riley McGree in that position. But then the players that we keep signing in that position are all right-footed and cut inside. It's it's a bit of an odd one. I'd like to know more about the long-term plan of what we see that position being, because at the moment I don't know.
That is an interesting point. I'll just say, as kind of finishing on Mike Hamilton, I think he would be better on that right-hand side, but it seems like he is categorised as what Tom said there, that kind of inverted winger on the left, and I just think you get more out of him on the right. But then we've got a lot of competition on that right-hand side, don't you, with Jones and Dork and Force coming back. Good to see him come off the bench yesterday. So if you lump Hamilton in there, it's kind of like maybe overkill on that right-hand side. But personally, I think he would be better on that side, and I would like to see him there over him playing left wing. But yeah, potential there, just yet to see it.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing, like, I know it's similar with all these wingers that we have centrally, just understanding how if retention is part of your game and you're good in tight areas, a central position can be a very good place for you to flourish. And if we could do that, then who knows? But there's definitely competition for places in that number 10 spot for sure over the last couple of weeks. But I want to quickly touch on Ben Dork. Another couple of exciting games, of course. Appreciate he does get you on your feet and gives a bit of excitement. Do you think he helps break down that low block we're tending to see from different teams at the moment?
I think he can, because it's his 1v1 threat. But then he might have a game like yesterday, and I agree with Tom. I thought Ken Sema was strong against him defensively. It never felt like his dribbling was particularly secure. And if you've listened to this podcast before, you know that I don't like an insecure dribbler. So his performance yesterday wasn't, like, in terms of having somebody that's going to put a fullback at a nervous disposition and force them to defend. I think Ben Dork did that yesterday. But yeah, it was a bit messy with his dribbling, I think, at times, and his final ball obviously does need improving, but I think he can be the one of the keys to unlocking a low block. I do feel that way. It's just his attributes. He's a very fun player, isn't he? He's a very dangerous player. Even if his final ball isn't particularly good, I think he's still dangerous because he can make defenders flap and potentially win fouls and stuff like that, like you mentioned. And it also opens up space. And what I will say is that the way that Ben Dork was positioned, it opened up just that tiny corridor for Luke Ayling to put those balls into the box. And Luke Ayling did that with his crossing, particularly in the first half. So it was shifting, taking the fullback out, opening up space centrally or in that half space, as we like to call it, and just giving Luke Ayling that space to be able to whip that ball into the box, which he did quite frequently in the first half. So yeah, I think that is probably something to keep an eye on.
One thing I'd like to see him do more of, and you've briefly touched on it there, Dana, is actually drawing the fouls. We have seen him do that a few times in that position so far, but what I have noticed, and this might be like a young player thing, he doesn't want to take the contact, so he will get out the way of the contact, and also because he's a bit driven on taking on his fullback and wanting to succeed in that area. Sometimes when he gets the contact, he still stays on his feet and tries to go around, even if it's in a bit more of a detrimental position because he's off balance. And this isn't me kind of advocating for diving or anything like that, but I'd like to see kind of just be a bit smarter with the contact. If you've gone past someone and you've felt the contact, don't kind of go all out to stay on your feet if it's in a dangerous position as well, because the team could probably benefit more from having the foul in that situation. But he's probably a little bit too honest in those situations, and he's like, right, I've taken the contact, but I still want to beat you and get a cross in. But maybe there's not enough players in the box to warrant the cross at that point either.
Yeah, and I just want to quickly move on from making defenders flap to Emanuel Latte Lath. 1 goal so far this season. £20 million move to Ipswich was on the cards. He's only got 1 goal. This question was always going to come up, right? And I feel like I just need to nip it in the bud straight away. But one side, you've got his head's turned. He hates the club, and he's standing on a photo of Steve Gibson's head in his bedroom. To like, it's just not working out for him. And where do you guys sit with this? Because in my opinion, I just think he's being unfortunate, and I think he's playing well still. He just needs to be better in front of goal. I don't know what you guys think about it, so I'm going to open the floor up to you both and shut up.
I agree with you.
Oh, that was easy, wasn't it? That was an easy conversation.
That's a very short one.
Okay, well,
to be fair, we've seen it in the past where a striker wants to leave and the head's been turned, and you see the type of performances they put in. Yakubu away at Wigan, rings a bell there. He has been unlucky. He's still working his socks off. He's getting into the right positions. Arguably, he could have had 2 or 3 in the last 2 games. The goals are going to come, but I don't think anyone can say that his head's turned and he's not trying, because it's blatantly obvious that he is.
Yeah, I agree. That was a very easy discussion point for us to go into. So let's go into another discussion point and chat about some podcast questions. Yes, podcast questions. Every week you get the chance to ask us a question via Twitter, Boro_breakdown, or by email, the borobreakdown@hotmail.com. And the first question is from Karis, and they ask, what does Ayling have on Carrick to be starting every game? Dana, do you want to take this? I don't think Ayling's been that bad, personally, but
No, I think there's more prevalent problems in Boro's team than Luke Ayling for me. I think he's been fine. He created decent chances yesterday, or decent openings for chances yesterday with his crossing. Is he going to be perfect defensively? No. Could we do better? Potentially, but I think he's fine. The more prevalent problems, the more pressing issues in Boro's team are the players that don't convert their chances. And to be honest, Luke Ayling's putting those chances on a plate for them. So, yeah, don't see him as a particular issue right now.
Yeah, I don't either. I think defensively we've been fine. Obviously, we've got some individual errors, but as a unit and not giving too many chances away, like I said at the start of the show, we've improved massively. Like you said there, Denham, it's the other end, which we've been so good at under Matt Carrick, is now becoming an issue because we can't score them. In game state matters, because if we were scoring those chances, we wouldn't be conceding them, and our underlying numbers for goals conceded, which, by the way, is still joint 2nd or 3rd. Like, we're doing enough defensively, I would say. But anyway, the next question, Tom, I'll come to you. It's from Flintstone Skin, which I found that quite funny. Is it possible to follow Boro and remain sane?
No. I think it's funny because you've got the Joker Part 2 coming out in the cinemas soon, and as part of his origin story, he does actually follow the Boro, and it does lead to that. So, yeah.
I think it's just been released, hasn't it?
It has, yeah.
It's a musical, isn't it? So yeah, the musical of Middlesbrough and him going slowly insane by the amount of chances that we miss. Anyway, let's go and preach. Let's go to church and let's go to the praise and place. Ah, yes, the praise and place, the only place we like to give praise to a player, a coach and staff member. We've got options down t-shirt and so much more. And before we go into it, I just want to say we are up for an award in the FCAs this year. And if you'd like to vote for us, it's in the description of this podcast. It takes 2 minutes and you can vote for us by the form and help us get another award. That'd be pretty cool. But guys, who is in your praise and place this week? Dana, who are you going to go for?
I'm going to mention again Hayden Hackney. I thought his performance against West Brom was very good. I also want to praise George Edmondson, who has had a very good week. Obviously, opened his Boro account. I don't think anybody was expecting George Edmondson to be the one to score against Watford, but he did. And he was very good defensively against West Brom, just putting his head where it hurts. Very like Matt Clark, actually, I think, in that regard. Very strong in his defensive duels when he's called upon. I think he's showing himself to be a very good defender. There's a few people that have said he lacks pace. I don't agree with that at all, actually. I just think people often see like a big burly defender and think they're slow, but I don't think he is. One of the things Ipswich fans said when we signed him is that he's pretty good against pacey forwards and that he does possess a decent amount of quickness himself. I love that his voice gets absolutely charred after a game. Like, he turns into Tyson Fury. I did actually have to go back and listen to an interview when he first joined Ipswich just to see what he actually sounds like, and he does not sound like that. So that man must shout his head off during a game. I do feel sorry for his voice box and his throat, and yeah, he needs some lozenges, that man. He needs a year's supply of lozenges, but he was very good against West Brom, and I think it needs to be mentioned. So, yeah, Hayden Hackney and George Edmondson in the praise and place for me this week.
Yeah, I was actually one of those people that's on the lowdown said that he probably lacked a bit of pace, but now that I've seen him in person, I actually think he's a lot quicker than I thought he was. And yeah, it was quite a difficult one because I think a lot of the clips he does get turned or taken on quite quickly, but like on reflection and looking at these players in more depth, they are naturally very, very quick players. So it's just him's a bit slower than someone else. I watched Match of the Day this morning where it was like Traore versus Kyle Walker. Kyle Walker is absolutely rapid, but Traore is just quicker. So then Kyle Walker looks slower. Yeah. It was kind of like one of those. But anyway, who's in your praise and place, Tom?
Same for me, Hayden Hackney and George Edmondson. Hackney for obvious reasons, and we spoke about it earlier on the pod. Edmondson, good week for him, getting his first Boro goal, but I also think he has probably exceeded what I expected from him. I'm going to be honest, he's not a player I know a great deal about, so when we were linked with him towards the end of the window, I was just kind of like, who is this guy? He's clearly only here and like in the team until our centre-back injury worries clear up, but since he has been in the team, and I think you've seen this in the last couple of games as well, and actually also in the Sunderland game, I think it was. The whole, it gets passed back to him off kick-off, he puts his foot on the ball, and then he's looking to play out from the back, and he's very, very well kind of skilled in that, which again is a stereotype about a big burly defender. You don't expect them to be able to play out from the back the way he does, but no, he fits into the team really well, which could be expected with him coming from Ipswich and the way they play at the moment. But yeah, I think he's fit into the team really well, and I think this is going to be another situation where there is a bit of a selection headache when all our centre-backs are fit. I say when, if they're ever all fit at the same time, because no one's ever fit at Middlesbrough. And that is also one of the causes of the Joker going insane in the new movie.
I think Tommy, you're really giving away the new Joker film here. But I think for my
breakdown 10.
Yeah, use 10. You get 10% off your next viewing for every show that's in the Joker. But I think mine is for probably Ben Doak. I think Ben Doak's been bright this week and has been for the last few games that he's played. Hayden Hackney, of course, for his back-to-back goals. And George Edmondson, really, really good. Really happy with him. I think he's been an excellent addition to us, very sensible addition, Don. And we're fairly happy with him. So yeah, long may that continue. But let's move on to trivia now, because Boro do play Bristol City when they return of the international break. Another international break. I'm sick of them already. But I'm excited to see Lee Carsley's team play. But we'll go straight into predictions afterwards. But first, the question in this week. It's about, and by the way, thank you to the people that were correcting me in the comments last week, because I did actually get some of it wrong. You can't fault the internet, it's always wrong. So thank you to the historians out there. But anyway, Nigel Pearson played for Middlesbrough between 1994 to 1998 and managed Bristol City between 2021 and 2023. But how many games in total was he involved in between the two clubs, and who was he more involved with? Your timer starts now. Time is up. So just to go back on the question as well. So Nigel Pearson played for Middlesbrough between 1994 and 1998 and managed Bristol City between 2021 and 2023. But how many games in total was he involved in between the two clubs, and who was he more involved with? So Tom Green, I'll let you go first. How would you answer the question?
Right, so I've gone with Bristol City for who he was more involved with, purely because I'm doing a bit of kind of quick maths there, and I'm like, there's 46 games a season. He clearly got sacked mid 2023, so you're looking probably 100 plus games for Bristol City. Whereas the 4 years over with Middlesbrough, it doesn't account for injuries, suspensions, or anything like that. I might be a bit low on the number, but I've gone 187. But yeah, I've gone more involved with Bristol City using that logic.
Okay, so 187 in Bristol City. Denimol, what are you going to go for?
Well, my logic is pretty much the same as Tom's, but I've gone the same. That Bristol City was more involved with them, and I've gone 230 games between the two of them.
Well, you're both wrong. Ha! Win again.
Oh. Evil again.
And this is where I get told
Lee
I'm
Maguire
wrong.
arc.
This is where I tell you I'm wrong as well again in the comments this week. So I do appreciate it. But I mean, just throwing everyone off the place, it's good that you're researching it. I like that. I like that I'm getting fact checked. But anyway, so for Middlesbrough, he played in all competitions, was 139 games. And then for Bristol City, he was involved 131 games. So he was actually more involved in terms of league games, but when you add all the games in total for how many he was involved with, that's what I was mentioning there. He's actually involved in 270 games and played. Well, it was involved for more.
I was close. Was that not?
I want to recount. I want friendly matches included as well.
Well, I don't have the capacity for that, Tom. So unfortunately,
I said 230. I thought I said 280. Never mind. Carry on.
Miles off, 270. I said. So anyway, let's look ahead to Bristol City. Of course, just predictions. I didn't really want to go into depth too much because there's going to be a break, and I'll probably forget the game exists by next week. So, what are you predicting against Bristol City? Tom, do you want to do your predictions first?
Yeah, I think we come back after the international break and smash them 4-0.
Wow.
I agree with what some people are saying on Twitter, where it is eventually going to click and we're going to batter a team, and I don't see why it can't be in this game.
And then for you, Dana, what are you going to predict for this week? Well, next week, next couple weeks against Bristol City.
Well, in our last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 meetings against Bristol City, we have not won. So I do feel as though they are a bit of a bogey team for us, like home and away. And even we beat them in 2021, 2-1. After that, they beat us. After that, we beat them. After that, they beat us. And then, yeah, I feel like this will be 2-2. I'm just getting 2-2. I'm seeing a vision, and it's 2-2.
Shout out to Desmond, whoever that is. I'm gonna go. I think we'll win, Tom. I'm gonna follow you, and I think we'll win. I think Tommy Conway's gonna score as well, and I would love to see like an Adebayor type celebration, just running, just knee slide in front of the Bristol City fans, because I think one, it'd be really funny, and two, I get to analyze another knee slide. So I'll take a win. I'll probably I'm gonna go 2-1. 2-1, bro. Yeah, 2-1. Yeah, that sounds good. Well, give us your score predictions in the comments below. But for right now, guys, thank you very much for joining me. As always, until listeners and the viewers, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to give us a 5-star rating on your podcast provider. And don't forget to subscribe to the Boro Breakdown as well and find all of our amazing content on our YouTube and your podcast provider. But for right now, Boro floating like a butterfly, but stinging like a dead bee. This has been the Boro Breakdown podcast, and that was like a Boro Match Day chatter in a pod. Up the butter.